Thanks for tuning in. We're Ace Comicals. I have with me my co-host Rahul Jani and Leon Everett. I'm Greg Driver. Let's get started. Hi guys, welcome to Ace Comicals episode 005. Today I'm joined with Leon and Rahul because he's now home from Japan, and this time it's me that's been on holiday. I've been away in Hungary for a week, and while I was out there I got a chance to do some little bit of reading, and since I've been back I've picked up my stack of comics, and we're just going to talk about what we've been reading, and we're going to get straight into it. So, start with Rahul. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been good. Got a bit of a cold right now, so I apologise if I'm coming through a bit sniffly or anything. But other than that, it's been great. It feels like forever since I got back from Japan, and I really miss it. But I didn't get to do any reading while I was on holiday. But since I've been back, I've done a lot of just lounging around and catching up on stuff. So, yeah, hopefully we should have some stuff to talk about today.
And it's his birthday at the time of recording.
It is indeed. Thank you.
It's happy birthday, Rahul.
Everybody say happy birthday to Rahul.
Cheers, Rahul.
I'm going to stop this. I'm going to a little bit of silence right here now in the podcast, so all of you can say happy birthday, and then we'll get back on. No. How have you been, Leon? How have you been?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. It's we're getting a bit envious over here. You guys with all your holidays, and me just sitting by in boring old England as sun decides to peek out. But I've got to wait till June until mine, so we'll see. Even in that time, I mean, the weather's got better, even in that time, I just haven't had. I've been super busy recently, so like, I wanted to attack my stack, and I'm no Greg. I've barely penetrated it, so I've got less to talk about, but still some interesting reads this week.
Okay, so I guess we'll start with Ray, because you were away last time, so take us through what you've been reading, Ray.
Well, you know what? I always go first, and I think I've got a little bit more to say than Leon this time. So how about we change things up a little bit?
Do you want to swap it around, Leon? Leon, do you want to go first?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
why
okay,
not?
Do it that way.
So, as I was saying in episode 3, where I thought, okay, keep up to date or roughly read something more modernish, and I got the Image bundle that I bought in January with the Image at 25 that was on Humble Bundle. Well, IDW had a bundle in March, almost as like a clapback to Image, like, yeah, we can do bundles too. So they put up theirs, and there's some interesting stuff in there actually. So, like, one of the comics which I haven't got around to finishing, but I'll be mentioning in the future week, was the comic book of The Max, which is was a cartoon on MTV back in the 90s, if you're old enough to remember that. But from what I've read of that to begin with, many moons ago, borrowed from my cousin, it was really interesting. Really sort of esoteric and individualistic comics, so I'm looking forward to going back, starting that from the beginning, and reading it through to the end. Now that I own my own copy.
I never thought we'd ever see the day that we'd be asking people if they were old enough to remember things from the 90s.
It only gets worse from here. It only gets worse from here.
Yeah, they all told us that time is linear, but I never believed them.
But yeah, on top of that, They concluded a lot of sort of like full runs of stuff, which I thought was a pretty cool thing to do in a bundle. Because normally it's you get trade 1, and if you're lucky, you get trade 2. But this one offered there was some
quite
a bunch.
Because I got this one as well. It was a charity bundle, wasn't it? It was, but it was. You got like you were saying, there's a lot of self-contained stuff in there as well, wasn't there? Like one-shot type stuff.
Yeah. One that I'll definitely be talking about.
And limited series type things as well.
Yeah, in episode 7, there's one that I'll definitely be talking about.
Yeah.
No spoilers though. But Yeah, and there was that one that we've pre-ordered for physical version.
Yes, yeah. What was the name of that again? that's totally
You guys
escaped.
ordered.
That has completely escaped me. But it was something I was looking forward to. It's an IDW horror comic that is by the CEO of IDW.
Is this still part of that bundle you're talking about?
It is, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Right. Okay.
But it was cool because normally with these bundles, they're all digital usually, and it's cool, and you get like a PDF version or you get a CBR version, blah blah blah. But this one, it was actually offering a physical comic because it's a new IP, and the guy was going, the author, who I think might be the artist, but the author was going to sign it, so you get a physical version.
Yes.
And I've never ever got anything physical from a Humble bundle before, so I thought that was quite cool, notable. I'm looking forward to getting my physical copy.
Much to my shame for forgetting about it, I've now got the information. It's called Diablo House.
Yeah, Diablo
and
House.
it's Ted Adams, the CEO of IDW. It's his own creator-owned.
Oh wow, that's
cool. His own creator-owned thing, and I think it's going to be like an anthology, from what I understand, an anthology of horror stories. And you've got this surfer guy who is telling the stories, who is like he's like the Crypt Keeper, but he's just like a creepy surfer dude.
Okay.
And he's telling these stories, and the first one obviously is one story, and every comic's going to be its own like self-contained story, from what I understand. And it looks really, really good. It's something I'm looking forward to, and it's one of 120 million horror comics that seem to be launching this year, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, you've been well served there, Greg.
Yes, I have.
It's like horror all year. They've predicted the way things were going to go in 2016, and everyone just got frantically writing and drawing. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty good bundle. And it's funny because the first thing I'm going to talk about is something that I own physically, but hadn't got around to reading yet. So I moved from Bristol back to London. I was there for almost 4 years, and I moved over Christmas. But one of the last things I did is over Christmas time, I think maybe the week just before Christmas, IDW released the alternative covers for Locke Key Small World, which was it's part of the Golden Age run, which is going to form its own trade. But Locke Key is comic book series by Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez, and it's a very cool, interesting series. If you know anything about Joe Hill, he's a horror writer, blah blah, son of Stephen King, but with he has this very cool sort of style that's influenced by so many things, and this one is very much like it's almost turning into sort of like his epic in a way, because the main story is obviously finished in the 7 trades that have come before. Sorry, 6 trades that have come before. But like with this group, it's a way to sort of visit the main setting, which is the Key House in Lovecraft, Massachusetts, which is an awesome name and nod. But with this, they've with each of the comics that are part of the Golden Age, they have like explored a different time in the history. So it still has to do with the Locke family, but it's the Locke family historically.
Yeah.
So with this one, it's an older story set closer to the turn of last century, and it's about a family there with 3 kids, 4
kids. 2
2
girls and 2 boys.
Yeah, 4 kids, 2 parents, and the grandpa or an uncle? I can't remember. But yeah, it's cool because it's very, very like self-contained and short story. And it's just a cool little sort of side story of this family comfortable with the things that happen in the house and what the keys can do. I won't give any details for anyone who hasn't read the main Locke and Key comic, but it's really cool because I really like things where people like revel. There's too many things where people are like emo and moaning or scared of the power they've got, and it's nice to see a family just chilled and relaxed and reveling in it, but then also having to tackle some sort of evil foe, which isn't even fully explained, but it's just a nice little sort of side story with them battling some sort of foe. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, there's not too much to say on it. It is only it's like sub 30 pages, and it is very much like a slice. So it leaves you wanting more in the worst way, because I have no idea when we're going to get any more. But yeah, no, I definitely recommend it, especially, only really if you've read main Locke and Key, and if you've not yet, get on it. But yeah, that was a cool one, and it's I think Locke and Key in a way is one of the sort of, I don't know, foundations of Ace Comicals in a way. It's a comic sort of brought our sensibilities together, and in keeping with that, I got 3 different alternative covers, and we're all going to have one different one each. So
the very foundations, cool. The very foundations of Ace Comicals is Sonic the Comic.
Yeah. That's OG. That's a deep cut. But moving on. There's another comic from the bundle that I just like the cover of. Even though the cover is kind of dull in what it shows, but it's more like the visuals that it gives. I mean, the composition is very basic. All it is a dad who's like a cop holding hands with his daughter, and then like a weird sort of horned demon freak in a city below. And I was like, okay, this looks like it might be some weird sort of demon procedural show. And it's quite interesting. It's not quite. I mean, it's set in a world where it's modern times like it is now, but they just accept there's like demons in the city, demons all around it. But it's kind of accepted. It's kind of like if in Buffy, in Sunnydale, like in the later seasons, you see there's like vampires and demons just hanging out at bars and stuff. It's kind of like that, but if humans knew about it as well. And because of that, you've got like a special police force who are called the Cyclops, who like deal with like demon-based activity in the city.
So, I was going to say, you'd say it's probably got a little bit of Hellboy about it.
Kind of. I think it's hard to tell because I'm super early into it at the moment. But like, one of the things that was first striking to me is that it's set in London.
Okay.
Which I thought was pretty cool, and like central London.
Okay.
And there's some early nods to Buffy because they're in an area called St. Giles, and there's a bar called the Angel. So like they're already trying to speak my language straight in. But yeah, I mean it's quite an interesting start because I won't go into too many details, but you don't really learn that much at the beginning anyway. But apparently the demons are sort of an underclass who are sort of forced into like areas of criminality and stuff. And you have beggars who have got like magic like claw-like arms and stuff, and it's presented in a way where like they've been around for like hundreds of years and are like the lower class to the humans, which you'd think is weird because humans with powers and stuff would be the ruling class.
That's what I'm going to say. That's interesting because most things you read where there's demons and stuff like that, the demons are kind of the puppeteers in some weird way, or they're fighting a battle that is so far above what humans should understand and know that, you know, it's just ridiculous, and there's usually a human character that gets involved in all of it just so that they can do the Macaulay Culkin face with the hands thing, you know, every possible moment.
Well, this one's weird because it starts with like a the dad. It's a dad and his daughter who are like the lead characters, and it's she's doing Shakespeare at her school. She's this is a weird thing actually. They say 12th grade or something like no, she's in the 10th grade or something like that. And I'm like, what? This is London, baby. So I don't know if if it's a world thing or if it's like a case of US writers or whatever.
Yeah.
But like he's watching her do Shakespeare, and then they're on their way home, gets a call saying, "Oh, there's a thing going on, and the North Police are 20 minutes out. Can you do it?" And he's like, "I'm out with my daughter," and it's like, "We need you," blah blah. So anyway, these band of demons, or whatever, have like, I say taken hostages, but it's kind of more brutal than that. But they're trying to get these documents or details or whatever, and then like chaos sort of ensues. But it's a really interesting start. I mean, it ends with a cliffhanger, the very first issue, and it puts its hooks in. I mean, I don't know 100% how I feel about it yet, because it just feels like it's too early. I'll have to read some more before I can say like whether I'd recommend it or not. But I mean, it's hooked me enough that I'm willing to see what more the writers are going to do. And I say writers because it's written by Mike Carey and Arvind Ethan David, and the art's done by Brendan Cahill. And I think the character designs are pretty cool. I think it's cool to see sort of semi-alternative London, and they do the thing where they have like cool-looking colours for the nighttime sky and stuff. I mean, it doesn't just look. It's not grey. It's a nice, not Technicolor, but it's a nice sort of varied colour comic. So it's nice to look at, and I'm interested to seeing where it goes. And it's nice to have sort of like a British-based sort of weird fantasy, alternative history sort of property. And it's even more interesting that it's interesting to have a sort of black protagonist and his daughter. So I'm interested to see how they explore that and like what they do. I mean, it's just not something you see all the time, especially in this type of like fantasy. Generally not. So it's cool to see it, and I'm interested to see where they go.
I'm just looking at it now. I'm looking at a preview of it, and on the IDW, and I'm looking at that comic cover with the beggar, no hands, no work. And February 2017, so this completely slipped under my radar, but it sounds like something that would be right up my street as well. So I might have to go back and look for that. That sounds pretty cool. Yeah, add it. Add it to the ever-growing stack. So I guess we're on to Rahul now. It's your turn.
Right. So like I said, I've been trying to catch up on a lot of stuff since I got back from traveling, because I didn't get to do nearly as much reading as I'd like to have done. So I was doing a lot of running around, and I thought, taking all these trains that I was taking, I'd be able to sit there and read on the 2-hour journeys I had. Didn't do a single fucking minute of reading, because I was just shattered each time I got on a train. But the stuff that I did have lined up, so I bought the first 2 volumes of Ms. Marvel, so the new Kamala Khan one, and I've been catching up on that since I got home, and it's amazing. It's so much fun. I don't know if you guys have actually caught up on this. Have you? Or
I've not.
I've read the first trade.
Oh, you have? Okay. Because for me, it reminds me kind of Power Man and Iron Fist, in both in its tone and the way it's presented. So it has this very like vibrant, super comic booky, like almost childishly comic booky style.
It revels in it.
It really does, yeah. And it's because she's a teenager, and so the lead character is this girl called Kamala Khan, and she, through mysterious circumstances, gets superpowers and decides to call herself Ms. Marvel. And the first trade is all about how she's coming to grips with these new powers, whilst also hiding it from her parents and sneaking out of the house to use her powers for good. And it's all about her being like an awkward teenager and getting to grips with it. But the thing that really spoke to me is, I mean, I've got Indian background, and Kamala Khan is Pakistani American, but the way that her parents talk to her and the circumstances she's in really was something I could relate to, and that's not something I've ever had from a comic book before, which was really nice to see the way that her parents were depicted and the way they talk, and I can hear it in the voice that sounds realistic, and not in a caricature way, but in a really naturalistic way. And that really struck me. And then moving on to volume 2, she bumps into I don't want to spoil anything, but bumps into familiar faces, and she goes on a romp, and it's loads of fun. And I'd highly recommend it. I can see why it's been getting so much praise.
And that's done by, it's G. Willow Wilson, isn't it?
It is, indeed. It's G. Willow Wilson, and I think the artist is Adrian Alfonso. But it's also, I think, I don't know if they've got co-writing credits, but it says created by editors Sana Amanta and Stephen Wacker. So I don't know how involved they were in the writing, but I have an inkling that Sana must have had some influence on at least the cultural background of...
Yeah, I can't remember. It's been a while ago since I read up on it, so I might be wrong, so I'm sorry, listeners, if this is fake news. But I'm sure it's a case where the main idea and the main sort of base was created by her.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
That sounds about right. I mean, it's neither here nor there. It's well written overall, I think, so it's well worth checking out. Moving on from there, so again, while I was out and about in Japan, I didn't really get a chance to look at as much manga or any other Japanese-style comic books as I'd have liked. But towards the end of my trip, I ended up going to the Ghibli Museum. And while I was there, I discovered something that I'd never seen before, which were film comics. So I bought a 5-volume set of Spirited Away in film comic version. So it's 5 individual books split up, and the entire film, cells from the movie are scanned in and translated to the page in comic book format, along with the speech bubbles and narration to explain what's going on. And
that sounds awesome.
It's gorgeous. And I picked up it's basically the entire movie in 5 books for about 21 quid. And
wow,
I've been having a look online, and I can see that Amazon do sell them, but they're about £7 each. So, I mean, you can still get them here. That would be in English. I bought them in Japanese. The other point being that they're in Japanese, but they're designed, I think, for children, in that the phonetic translation is written against the traditional Japanese kanji. So I can't read kanji very well, but I'm a fairly decent Japanese speaker. And with the phonetic, I can look it up in a dictionary and maybe learn some Japanese from it as well. Plus, because it's my favorite Ghibli movie, I kind of know it quite well, so that's my excuse for picking it up, and it's bloody gorgeous. So I'm going to have to show you guys, and I'll leave a link to the show notes to give an example of how it looks, because they are stunningly presented. And they had all of them. They had all of the different movies had their own version of these film comics, and then there were also, alongside the 5-volume film comics, there were individual larger books, which had a similar thing going on. So scenes taken out of the film and put onto the page, but one, they didn't have the phonetic translations, but they were also presented a bit more sparsely, and I preferred these ones, even though it's a bit more cumbersome to carry the 5 separate volumes. But yeah, I found something I'd never seen before. I've never seen like an English or an American animated film translated to page this way. So yeah, that's worth checking out. Speaking of manga, I did try and pick up some influence, and I found one called Goodnight World, which a friend recommended. I haven't really got very far into it, but it's basically about an estranged family in the real world who, unknowns to them, spend their time together as a family in an online virtual world where they're the most fearsome family in the game. And it's ridiculous, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not like there's other types of manga and anime like this, like, for example, Sword Art Online, where everything's really stone-faced and everyone's really stoic and aggressive, and the whole typical Japanese shonen thing. This one, it's super tongue-in-cheek, and it's a bizarre situation where they're super lovey-dovey in-game, but they don't realize they're actually the same family that are completely fractured at home, and they're all tucked away in their own individual rooms in their house, not knowing that they're interacting with each other in the game world. It's ridiculous.
That does sound pretty cool.
It's quite funny, and it's super stupid, and it's extremely Japanese, but that's one of the few manga I've been enjoying lately. Aside from that, catching up on my regulars, Sex Criminals number 17 has finally come out after what I think is feels like a year-long hiatus, but I think it must have only really been about 6-7 months. And it basically just picks back up where it left off. I don't really want to go into that because it's kind of hard to talk about without spoiling anything. And the same goes for Paper Girls, which has resumed a couple of months ago. So I think the latest one was issue number 12, and things are going even more batshit screwy than volume 1.
I'm about 2 or 3 behind on Paper Girls. I need to catch up.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything because I don't remember where you guys left off or where we even... Have we discussed it in the past on the podcast? I don't think we have.
Yeah, I think I'm at number 10 on Paper Girls at the moment.
Oh, okay. Right.
So I'm a bit far. I'm up to 2 behind.
Yeah. I mean, stuff progresses really quickly in this one, so let me know when you've caught up and we can talk about it on the next one. Yeah.
It is very good, and if you've not picked it up already, go back and read the previous 12, please.
I do need to catch up on Paper Girls, but the thing is with Paper Girls, I like to leave a buffer trade. What am I talking about? A trade buffer. You're talking about manga. I've been reading it backwards. I like to have a buffer because I hate catching up and having to wait. It's the worst thing. And like reading issue by issue would drive me insane. So I think I can handle being a couple of issues behind when I catch up. But yeah, like being up to date would drive me insane. So like I like to give it a buffer. But the problem is the buffer then becomes 2 years. And I'm like, it's good because I've got loads to catch up on, but then I just rarely fall out of it.
See, the trick is you do the Greg school of comic book and manga reading. So instead of having one large stack that you've had to wait 2 years to build up, you just have a crap load of different manga and comics in one giant load-bearing stack, and you just always reading 50 things at a time.
Yeah, that seems to be the plan.
That is exactly how I do it. I have like 2 or 3, well, more than 2 or 3 things on the go at once. And there's always something new, so I'm not always waiting for anything because there's always something.
Yeah, and you might be waiting for one individual story.
Yeah.
For a month, but at least every week you're reading something that you enjoy new.
Yeah.
And it takes like an hour of your week at a time. It's as long as you get in that rhythm, it's not.
I mean, that's how you're meant to read comics. To be fair.
Yeah.
No one reads just one comic. No one reads just one story at once because that's. Well, people probably do, but for me, that just sounds like the worst thing you could do to yourself ever, because you'd be waiting a whole month to pick that up again, and it's just no.
One other thing, so are we good to talk about like comic adjacent stuff? For example, TV shows that are based on comic book properties. Is that
we did it in 003?
Yeah.
What did you talk about in 003?
Riverdale.
Oh, you did. You've already talked about Riverdale. Yeah, because
God, Rahul, don't you listen to our episode?
No, I was in a different country at the time. Where was I? Where was my invite?
So you didn't even hear the answer to your question.
I did. I just forgot. I'm really sorry.
He listened to it. He's just forgot.
I listened to it and I just forgot. Yeah, Riverdale is great. Caught up on that while I was on the airplane, and it's amazing. I can't remember exactly what you guys said, but I like that it's not quite. It's basically not the same thing as the comic books I remember as a kid. It's super dark and tongue-in-cheek and teenage drama and melodramatic and everything, and it's fucking awesome. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say is I think as time of recording, I'm an episode behind. But like the thing I really like that it does well is it's very knowing. And it's written with like quite a fondness for the stuff that it's not parodying for the stuff that it's influenced by. So obviously there's loads of Twin Peaks and there's loads of like various other shows, whether they be teen shows. I mean, there's the comics themselves, but what I like about it has this way of sort of heightened reality where I know, like it's not quite the real world because people act really weird in it, but it's quite an enjoyable place to be. And I mean, it's a show that, like, from the outside and from what you'd hear about it, it should be complete garbage. But it's not even like it should. I should be saying, oh yes, like I was saying before, like, oh, this is my guilty pleasure, but it's not. It's
actually
not
good.
But the thing is, it's not prestige TV. Let's create a delineation. But it is like really smart, and
it's quality. Like they've put some thought into it, and they, like you said, it's very knowing. They know what the property is. They know what they're trying to get at. It's not a muddled mess of ideas and themes.
And what I'm hoping, like I said previously, I just want them to lean into some of the, for lack of a better word, cheese. Like lean into some of the weirdness more.
I'm not watching it properly, but my girlfriend has been watching it, and I've been catching bits and pieces of it when she's been watching it. And there's one episode where there's the intro to the episode. It like starts off, and they're all wearing the original costumes.
Yeah,
the original Archie costumes. I thought that was really cool, and that is what has been the deciding factor in me adding it to my list of things to get watched. Because I do want to go back and finish watching it and watch the rest of it now, because of that, the way that started just then. That was great. But yeah.
Oh yeah, and speaking of other like comic book adjacent TV shows, Leon's been mentioning Legion a lot, and I think you've been watching it, haven't you, Greg? Or you hyped it first out of all of us.
I've got it ready to watch.
Oh, okay, right. So
Leon hyped it first out of everyone when we've been discussing outside the show. I was into the idea of it because it's X-Men based, so it's like an ongoing show featuring an X-Men character called Legion, who is Xavier's son. If from the comics, from what I understand, he's Xavier's son, and he's a very powerful mutant, but he's also got mental health issues, basically. And the show, I assume, will explore that. Legion is the he's the reason that Age of Apocalypse happens.
Right. In
the Age of Apocalypse storyline in the comics. But yeah.
Well, yeah, that's one of those ones that I got queued up because Leon's hyped it so much, so I'm interested in getting onto that as soon as it's available.
I've got a lot of thoughts on it, but the finale aired last week, and I've got the finale to watch. So I'm going to wait until episode 7 before I give my full impressions, because it's quite a short season. I believe it was 8 episodes, 8 episodes, which I quite like, and I think it's something that the Netflix Marvel shows should do more, which they are doing with the Defenders, but I think they should definitely take that cue. But I've got loads of thoughts on it, but I'll share them more.
Oh, the Marvel Defenders stuff, because we've had Iron Fist actually talking about TV shows as well. And I've sat and watched all of that. I'm not as impressed as I thought I was going to be. Because the other Marvel shows were actually really good. Like Daredevil and
Jessica Jones, Luke
Cage. Yeah, they were all good, but it was okay, but it wasn't. It didn't feel like it sat up there with the other three.
We're talking about Iron Fist, right?
Iron Fist, yeah. It had its issues.
I've heard some terrible things about this show. Like, I've not actually seen it myself, so hands up right now. I can't give my own opinion, but the things that I hear about it make it sound absolutely terrible.
I don't think it's as bad as some people are making out, because people, like, anything you read on the internet about something where people are damning it, people have a way of making things sound 100 times worse than they actually are a lot of the time. But I think if you watch it, you're not going to be impressed, and after you're gonna feel let down if you've watched any of the other Defenders shows.
Well, I think what I'll just say now, because this is another one that I'll probably talk about more in episode 7. But I'm at 4 episodes in, and I think the other Netflix Marvel shows do start kind of slowly, but like this one is just it's not as bad, at least where I am up to. It's not as bad as everyone's been saying, but I think it makes a worse crime in the sense that it's dull. So and like dull is just. I'd rather something be absolutely terrible than dull. Like I think I think that's a more worthwhile thing to be in the end. So I don't know. I'm going to finish it because I have to, because I want to watch Defenders, and I'm one of those idiots who will watch it instead of reading that post that somebody did where they explain all the episodes so you don't have to. But I feel like I can't comment on it, and I can't properly roast it or praise it
until you've watched it all.
Don't watch it. And I mean, it's not the worst. It's not the worst. Waste of my time. There are other things that I am wasting my time with.
I could be sat watching He-Man on Netflix, but
Ghostbusters is bad.
Yes, which is brilliant, but only watch the first season. With the way they've got it listed on Netflix, season 1 and maybe a couple of episodes from season 2, and then after that, it's when the show started to dive bomb. I've got all of it on a box set anyway, so I don't even need Netflix for it. But it's a good show, and season 1 is fantastic. Of that, it is a great cartoon.
Fond memories of that one.
But what you were saying, like for me, like to just bring it back, for me, Iron Fist is just indifference. It's not like blind hatred, or it's not dislike, it's not annoyance really or anything, and it's not. I don't love it. It's just meh. You know, like you're saying, there's worse ways I could have wasted my time, but I sat and watched all of it, and it's just meh. You know, I'm glad that it's probably... I hope that it doesn't get a second season of purely Iron Fist. I hope it goes Defenders, and then we might only see Danny Rand in the Defenders. Because I don't think... Unless season 2 is going to be something amazing... I don't think I want a season 2 of it. I think I'm content to just have Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage as the main ones.
I think I'm going to read that blog post you mentioned, Leon.
Yeah. Rahul, do you have anything else you want to mention?
So I may have mentioned my friend Chloe, who is actually a very good friend of my girlfriend. They used to go to uni together and they lived together and everything. She is a fantastic graphic artist, and she has recently announced that she had announced that she was selected to draw some alternate covers for a couple of comic books. So the first one being Highlander, and I think issues 1 and 2 she's done alternate covers for. That's the new Highlander American Dream. And she's done these stunning covers in her signature art style. And also the X-Files Deviations, which is the X-Files / Orphan Black crossover. And I just wanted to give a shout out to her and support her artwork, and maybe convince a bunch of people to go out and buy some of her versions of the comics, because they are spectacular. And I've pre-ordered... I basically got everything that she's had printed so far and got her to sign them. So if I ever go, broke one day, I can sell off these gorgeous pieces of artwork that are surely going to be worth something one day in the future. And I'll leave a link in the show notes for this. And if you ever want to check out her artwork, I believe her Twitter is @ysnail, and all her other DeviantArt, etc., is under that same moniker. So
how is the Highlander comic?
I haven't actually read it. I've just got a copy of it.
All right.
But I was trying to avoid that, Greg. So thanks for bringing that up.
Oh, sorry.
I will co-sign Rahul, and I'd say at the very least give @ysnail a follow on Instagram. I mean, she is really talented, and I've seen the Highlander one, and that was really cool. I'm interested to see some of the others, especially that X-Files Orphan Black.
Yeah, it's
that
really
cool.
It's super cool. I'm surprised I haven't already told you. Actually, it's pretty funky, and it's a bit of a departure from her normal style, and I think it works really well. You can tell she's put a lot of energy and effort and a lot of her soul into it. So
yeah, I want to check that out.
No,
I'll leave a link.
I've seen the Highlander one, and I'll go what you two have just been saying. The artwork is fantastic. I've seen some of her other artwork as well, things that she's posted up, and they're all really, really good.
So, I mean, we've been seeing her evolve her style over the last 5 or 6 years since she really got deep into it, and you can tell how much she's improved over the years. I mean, she wouldn't say that herself, but I can definitely see it. So yeah.
Okay, so it's time for me to climb Comic Book Mountain.
Strap in, guys. Strap in.
Okay, so this up to this show, things that I've been reading and following. Let's see, we've got there's a new X-Men Prime, which is a new X-Men comic that came out last week that I bought to check out, and that follows the X-Men's war with the Inhumans, so that follows on from that. So the X-Men have just had a war with the Inhumans, and the X-Men are now the mansion. You know how nuts things get in the Marvel universe, you know how insane things get with X-Men sometimes. So I'm just going to tell, I'm not even going to try and... The mansion has teleported to Limbo. Yeah.
Are you making stuff up?
No, I'm not. I'm not making this up. This is the mansion, the X-Men's mansion, the Westchester mansion is now in Limbo, and it's like the first issue. This is like the first issue of X-Men Prime. It's kind of like a getting the team together kind of thing again, and it's Kitty Pryde, and she wanted nothing to do with the X-Men. She moved out somewhere. She moved away. And then Storm came to find her and went, I want you to come and lead the X-Men because I don't want to lead the X-Men anymore. Because it's my fault they had to fight the Inhumans, which was ridiculous. And now it's... Because she led the X-Men into battle with the Inhumans. And now it's like bringing X-Men sort of back around again. I think they're trying to centralise it a little bit. But... It's like featuring any X-Men stuff that's happened over the past couple of years, like the different X-Men factions we've seen, different mutants we've seen pop and whatever, seem to be getting drawn together into this one book. So this book is X-Men Prime, and then I get the feeling after that later on this year, there's going to be launching some other titles that follow specific characters or specific teams. So X-Men Prime, and then you're going to have like little teams within that. So like other X-Men teams, like teams of like 2 or 3 mutants together that have their own little stories and adventures. And it's an interesting one because the last time there was a book called X-Men Prime, it was what followed Age of Apocalypse. And it was, when the Onslaught stuff was happening. If you know what Onslaught is, it's where Magneto and Charles Xavier ended up fused consciousnesses as this big evil beast thing called Onslaught, who was, and they fought
Whenever
Onslaught.
you talk about like old X-Men events, it just makes you think of the Old Testament.
Yeah, it is. This is just like shoveling, digging the dirt. Oh my god, yeah. But he's off we go down the hole. So Magneto and Xavier consciousnesses fuse or something, and you end up with some big evil thing of psionic energy called Onslaught that the X-Men had to do something about, which was that's my fast way of explaining the Onslaught stuff.
That was fast.
Yeah. But I warned you. X-Men. It gets pretty Marvel Comics gets pretty mental.
I've been hearing that complaint a lot about Marvel recently. Like there's a lot of things which are all cross tie-in events, and everything sort of weaves into each other a bit too much, to the point where people are complaining that to understand any one story you have to spend 10 times the amount on all the other stories.
Well, no, I don't think it's quite that bad. I think that's a symptom of having had these characters and properties around for so long.
Mm.
But this is kind of like supposedly the resurrection of X-Men. So this is where they're trying to bring X-Men back as a property at the front line of their... You know how X-Men was so popular at one point? It was the book. They're trying to bring X-Men back to the forefront, I believe. So you've got X-Men Prime, which is going to be the one that ties it all together, and then there's going to be several different ones with X-Men teams. And this issue was kind of like as I was said before, it's like a gathering the team, kind of getting everyone back together type thing, and establishing sort of who's going to be involved and who's not, and giving you a kind of like giving you a way in, because it is an issue 1. And I think it's actually quite good, and I'm excited about it because I like X-Men, and I'm always excited about new stuff. And you know, I'm gonna carry on with it and see where it takes me, and maybe I'll pick up these other books as well. And we'll see where it goes, because you know it's been a while since X-Men has given you a way in, kind of thing. Well, it's not been that long, but it's been a while, and it'd be interesting to see what they're going to do with X-Men now. Other stuff, I've been reading Curse Words, which we're now up to 3 issues, which is still really, really good. I wrote a thing about it on the blog. You should all go and read it. That's Curse Words. You don't necessarily have to read my rants. It's fine. I've been reading... I picked up... There's like an Iron Fist issue one that launched this month. So, well, this is April now, but March. And that is kind of like a pulpy martial arts thing. You've got Danny Rand, who's down on his luck, who appears to have lost the power of the Iron Fist, and he's trying to get it back, and he's basically just challenging himself, going around the world looking for fights until someone comes up to him and offers him a challenge, basically, that would be worthy of him, and feels like it might be a way for him to regain his powers. But then it's like a pulpy martial arts movie type thing. It's got real martial arts throwback movie stuff about it.
And this is like more sort of standard Danny Rand.
Yeah,
comic.
yeah. This is standard. This isn't. If you've been reading Power Man and Iron Fist, this isn't the Danny Rand you'll see in the Power Man and Iron Fist comic. It's not the recent Power Man and Iron Fist comic anyway. It's not the wisecracking Joker Danny Rand. This is standard Danny Rand type thing.
And it's not the wet, boring, ineffective Netflix Danny Rand.
No,
is it?
not incompetent Netflix Danny Rand either. No.
Because this is something I brought up when we did Power Man and Iron Fist, that I didn't really get along with Danny Rand's character in that one. Do you think I'd enjoy this one more?
You might. I'd give it a look. If you like old school martial arts films.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Then yeah. Well,
okay.
Because it's got a real, like, I don't know. When I was reading it, I just kept thinking of like The Big Boss. You know, like where they all get on the boats and go to the tournament.
Yeah.
It's that kind of that. Yeah.
Is that Enter the Dragon?
Is that Enter the Dragon? It is. It is Enter the Dragon, isn't it? Where they get on the boats and go, yeah. It Enter the Dragon. Then it's that. It's got that. Yeah. It's got that kind of, you know, like he's been selected for some kind of big badass tournament, or Mortal Kombat if you want. Because it could end up, because you know, like Marvel, it's Marvel, so it could end up a bit more Mortal Kombat with all the supernatural elements and whatever else. What else have we got? God Country. So Image Comics, God Country. This is something that kind of like piqued my interest because of its popularity. Every single issue has been rushed back to print. So what that means is we're 3 issues in, and every time they release a new issue, they've printed the previous ones. So they released issue 1, then they released issue 2 and reprinted issue 1, then they released issue 3 and reprinted issues 1 and 2.
What the hell was wrong with the original prints? What's caused this?
There's nothing wrong with the original prints, it's just people want it.
Oh, it's that popular.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's that popular.
You made it sound like
no,
it was issues.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. It was that popular that people,
that's cool.
There was demand for it basically, and it's selling. So, which is really nice to see actually, especially for a physical comic. And when I picked up issue 3. Because we were already at issue 3 when I started buying it, and I saw issue 1 and 2 on the stands because of the reprints and picked those up. And I can see why people want this book. It is fantastic. You've got this senile old man living on his own out in Texas somewhere. You've got his family coming to look after him because he's, his son's looking after him because he wants to stay at home. Don't want to put him in a home, and it starts off where he's wandered out of the house and the police have had to take him back because he's crazy. He's lost his mind totally. Doesn't even know what his own name is, kind of thing. And the wife's had enough of it, and it's not a good place for the kid to be because there's a daughter there involved, and there's a big argument, and the wife and the kid drive off, and then there's this massive storm blows in. Now this storm brings with it a demon that attacks the town, and also in the mix is a magical blade, the god of all blades. So this blade is like a spirit, a sword spirit that is present in every single blade ever forged, or something along those lines, from what I understand. And this sword lands in the hands of the senile old man, who, when he's holding the sword, remembers exactly who he is and is a hero. So he goes from being this like crazy guy that his granddaughter is frightened of because he doesn't know who he is or anything like that, and he shouts and he's really rude and swears at people and everything else, and he goes from that to being like this really nice guy, this really stand-up guy, like who he was before, but he has to be holding the sword or has to be in contact with the sword in order to remember who he is. And obviously because this blade is like some kind of celestial weapon, usually belonging to gods or belonging with the gods want it back. So I think the story from this point forward is going to be people, because there's a god actually comes to try and reason with him to try and get it back, and this doesn't belong here, this is Earth, you are small Earth people, you don't belong with something so powerful. But his whole answer to that is, well, if you want it, take it off me.
It sounds like the setup to a manga. Yeah,
from that point forward, it's people trying to get the sword back off him. It is very manga-y in its ways. It's quite it's got a lot of that about it, and the artwork's very nice, the writing's great, and I think that's definitely one worth mentioning, and definitely one that I think you guys would love if you picked up.
Okay.
What else have I got? I've got Underwinter, which is, we've only got one issue of this so far, and that is by Ray Fawkes, written and drawn. So he's the artist as well, painted more like, actually, because it's like watercolours. And this is a horror story. Now, I think with this one, it's really ethereal and how do I describe this? Like I was saying about that one shot a while back, the Belfry.
Oh yeah, the Belfry.
Yeah. In one of the previous episodes, it's kind of got that kind of air about it, where it's like ethereal and but it's not the same kind of horror. This is more psychological at a start, and then it's more this is more like sort of nightmares, sort of like preying on, rather than being a monster or something to be frightened of. This is more preying on your mind kind of horror, like the scratch in the back of your head kind of horror. It's psychological up to a point, and then you get the feeling that there might be something more to it as well. But what we've got so far in this first issue is a string quartet, like an orchestral string quartet, a band, and they seem to be a little bit down on the luck, struggling to find gigs, and they get offered a gig for rather a lot of money, like $10,000 each, I think it is, to play at a millionaire's sex party.
Okay.
And the whole thing is they have to wear what they're told to wear, so they all get given like specific suits and a specific red dress. The women get given specific red dresses to wear and things like that, and they have to play blindfolded. They're not allowed to look. Now, at the very start of the comic, you get a scene in a mansion where they've got there's these two guys, and they've got a woman sort of like held up, and he says something like "ink from the eyes again and from the nethers. What do you want to do with this one?" And they kind of have to cart her away. So there's something weird going on in this place anyway. And they get down there and they start doing the show, and one of them seems to be having kind of like S&M-y nightmares about him being the instrument as well at the start of the book, which is kind of like, you know, like he's being played. That's kind of like at the beginning of the book, but you get the feeling that there's something supernatural and something dark about it anyway, because when they get there, it isn't a sex party, it's something else, which I won't spoil. And that is very good. We're only one issue in with that so far, but I'm excited to see where that goes, because that seems to be like a really well written, really nicely put together horror book. It's quite an interesting horror story. And the last one on my list.
Sorry, before you go on, I was just looking it up right now while you're talking, and it looks gorgeous. The art style is really cool and like fluid.
It is,
painted.
yeah.
And apparently issue 2 is out April 26th, so
yes.
we're not far off from getting the next few. Yeah.
So
cool.
I think you guys should pick it up. Read issue 1. It's great.
Cool.
And the last one on my list is Ghostbusters 101, which is something that started this month. I liked issue 1 that much that I bought a variant as well, so I bought the regular cover and a variant. This is Eric Burnham and Dan Schooning, and I really like their previous work on the Ghostbusters. They've been doing they've been sort of for a long time now, they've been doing a run for IDW with Ghostbusters, and it's taken them through. There was like a regular run that ran for 8 trades worth of comics. Then there was like some limited series, like there was Ghostbusters Get Real, where they cross over with the real Ghostbusters universe, and there was one where they cross over with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Actually, it was pretty awesome. But they what it is with this run is, apparently when they took Gozer down originally, so if you the events of the Ghostbusters 1 movie, they created a multiverse, and this run seems to be exploring the different facets of this multiverse. So, and the multiverse is populated by different versions of the Ghostbusters. So you've got the original Ghostbusters, which feature in the Ghostbusters 1 and 2 movies, and then you've got the real Ghostbusters, which occupy their own universe. You've got the Extreme Ghostbusters, which occupies a different universe, and they all occupy different facets of the same thing. Now, this one, it's a crossover with the Ghostbusters, what they dubbed the Answer the Call team, which are the girls from the new Ghostbusters film. So the all-woman Ghostbusters team from the movie that was released last year. Now, that movie was very, very, very controversial. People were hating on it because there was a female Ghostbusters team, and people, you know, it got there was a lot of press surrounding it, you know, to do with misogyny, basically, and things like that. And for me, I mean, I didn't go and watch the movie, and for me, I ignored it simply because the trailer made it look awful. I watched the trailer, I wasn't impressed, I wasn't going to go and see it. I already had 2 great Ghostbusters films and a great cartoon series that I loved, and then this trailer came out, and I was thinking, I don't like the look of this. It's got nothing to do with the fact that it was a female cast or anything like that. I completely welcome that. That's fine. It's just the thing that I was annoyed about was just that the trailer just made it look terrible, and I just didn't want to see a terrible film, and I wasn't going to go and watch something that might, you know, I've already got Ghostbusters films that I enjoy. Why would I want to go and watch a Ghostbusters film that I don't like? I guess is what. But I've picked up these comics, and it's got this team in it, and you know what? These comics are great, and it is Eric Burnham and Dan Schooning anyway. And as far as I'm concerned, they can't put a foot wrong with the Ghostbusters because they've been doing really good work. The artwork's fantastic. It's really cartoony and comic-y, and they've got the tone spot on when they write stories about the Ghostbusters, which is what I think at least the trailer for this this latest Ghostbusters movie anyway, at least that was lacking. It didn't have the right tone for me. I think that's the main reason I didn't want to watch it, because I watched the trailer. I was like, no, this is completely the wrong tone. This isn't Ghostbusters. It didn't feel like Ghostbusters to me. But I do want to reiterate, it's got nothing to do with the female cast, because people have hopped on people that are hating on the film saying it is just because of the fact it's got a female cast, but no, it's not. And these characters pop up in this one because it's like a crossover between the universes. So the original Ghostbusters have got a doorway that lets them travel through into other universes and other versions of New York. And this time they're going to end up crossing paths with the Answer the Call team, as they've dubbed them, which is, I think it's kind of cool. And the second half of this first comic deals with the Answer the Call team exclusively. And I think they're great characters, and it's just a shame that was such a bad film, or looked like such a bad film. Because
it's a very middling film, and it's a shame that, because they set up a bunch of really interesting characters, which were then wasted with like generic Judd Apatow style comedy. Yeah, and I'd be interested in reading this, because it would be nice to see something interesting done with these interesting characters.
That's why I like it, because and I fully support these characters. These would have been a great addition to the Ghostbusters mythos movie wise as well, if that movie hadn't have been what it was, or looked like what it looked like. Because I can't talk too much because I haven't watched it, but
I think you should watch it, because it's not a terrible movie by any stretch. It's just it feels like a standard American comedy where it's half improvised, as opposed to a tightly scripted, clever comedy / gross horror like the first Ghostbusters was.
Yeah,
so it's a completely different kettle of fish.
Yeah, I know. I think it's the fact that it's not going to be as clever as the original Ghostbusters, and it's going to annoy me a little bit. But maybe I should, having read these comics and enjoyed and have this one book so far, enjoying these characters, I think I will go back and watch it. But I'm not, So
the comic sounds great. I think I'll pick it up.
But it was an interesting one for me to talk about, because being a Ghostbusters fan and everything, and having the reaction I had to the trailer of the new movie and everything else, and the controversy that was surrounding it. Hopefully Dan Schoening and Eric Burnham can do something cool with these characters, because I'd love to see that. And so far it looks looking good, and these guys can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. They're a great team. So yeah, that wraps it up with pretty much everything that I've been reading this month. Alongside the usual IDW stuff, which is getting a bit meh, with the exception of ROM and Micronauts. So if you're thinking of buying G.I. Joe and Mask, I'd say maybe don't, because I'm actually feeling like I'm going to drop it at some point. And I'm disappointed to say that, because I don't want to, but if it's going to carry on being as iffy as it is now, I don't want to pay money for it. I'm sorry. And the new Optimus Prime, the recently launched Optimus Prime book is still ongoing. I'm still reading Turtles. There's actually coming up, there's something I wanted to mention, because there's going to be another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Usagi crossover later on this year, which I'm very excited about. Which would be cool, because that's the first time that's happened in around 20 years. So
really?
That will be nice, yeah. I mean, they're well known for featuring in each other's properties anyway. You get Turtles in Usagi, you get Usagi in Turtles. Usagi was in the original TMNT cartoon series, and he's going to be popping up in this new one, which will be pretty cool. And you've got... Yeah, so while I was on holiday, my holiday reading was Adam Warlock and the Infinity Watch, and a bit of Marvel Infinity. Marvel Infinity War.
I thought all the rest was your holiday reading.
No, man.
Okay. Continue, yeah. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
This is all just the last week, is it?
Yeah, this is just a week in the life of Greg Driver.
Right.
No, yeah, but Marvel Infinity War, which is batshit. And because basically I've read some of these books before, and I just wanted to try and get an idea of how this might translate to film when they do this Marvel Infinity stuff. Having read the Infinity Gauntlet and having read, Infinity War now and things like that, I'm thinking this is huge. this is absolutely huge. How on God's green earth, without the Infinity Gauntlet, are they going to make this work as a movie? You know, I know they're splitting it into 2 movies, but it's like, obviously Infinity War is the sequel to Infinity Gauntlet, and I think what they're going to do is they're probably going to focus just on the Infinity Gauntlet part, which was like the first time Thanos got all of the Soul Stones together and decided he was going to try and be a god. But like there's characters that pop up in these comics that are more like concepts than characters. And I want to know how you're going to represent something that is the embodiment of all that is in a movie.
They're probably going to simplify it and pare it down.
I'm not going to agree with that.
They're probably. I've got every faith in them that they're going to be able to do it. But just from this standpoint, at the moment, it feels like they're trying to do the impossible.
I don't have full faith, but I think what they're going to do is make it more about character and make it more personal. So I think they'll lower some stakes on some elements, but it still will be this.
Maybe I shouldn't have full faith, but it's basically the fact of the matter is that there are characters that represent the universe itself. There are characters that represent concepts like infinity. Infinity is a character that pops up in these books. And it's like, it's cosmic insanity. It's like sci-fi to the point of how far
I think this
out,
might be
how macro do you want to go with this stuff? Because it's just this is what it feels like to me.
Yeah,
you know, there is a character, just to get the idea of what we're dealing with. There is a character that when they draw him, because he is all that is, he is literally. They draw a figure of a man like a shadow, and they make it look like space inside him, and then everything else is white around him.
That sounds like a cool image.
It's a cool image, but it's like fucking brain bending. How are they going to put that in a film? I mean, I know it's just, you know, pulpy sci-fi Marvel comics and whatever. It's not, but you know, and it's just crazy for crazy's sake. But damn, you know. I love these books. I do. I love how batshit they are. These are my favourite kind of Marvel comics. The crazy infinity stuff that involves Thanos, stuff that involves the cosmic beyond, you know, like Galactus and whatever else. Things that involve things that you can't ever imagine in your wildest dreams. Well, you probably can, but, you know, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I was reading these books because I was interested to see how it would translate to film. So, yeah, I'm having trouble imagining it at the moment, but hopefully it will translate well, and hopefully it'll be all right, and hopefully they'll do what they need to do in order to make it watchable. And that about wraps it up. So that's the end of everything that I've been reading and wanting to talk about. I feel like, you know, when you open a keg of wine and it just goes.
I have never opened up a keg of wine. It sounds great.
Like, I guess when you see in fantasy movies when they crack into a keg of ale or something, and it just squirts everywhere.
I feel like you've just purged.
Yeah, I've been that
building
keg
that up for a while.
I've been that keg of ale for about 2 weeks. Maybe we need to do these weekly instead.
Perhaps.
Oh, well, yeah. So I guess that wraps up the episode. Unless anybody else has got anything else they want to talk about, or anybody else got anything left?
No, I think you read all the comics.
Yeah, you've read every comic, every last comic.
Okay, so that wraps it up. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Pocket Casts. You can find us on Facebook under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Twitter at Ace Comicals. You can get in touch with us via to ask us any questions or anything like that via acecomicals@gmail.com. Any questions you want to ask us, we will field them in the next show, and we'll have some fun with that. Yeah. So any questions you have, anything you want to ask, anything at all, silly comics based questions, anything, just ask us a question and we will answer it as entertainingly as possible. We can be found on WordPress, so acecomicals.wordpress.com, and we have our website www.acecomicals.com. You can find me on Twitter at Bato. If you have any questions you want to field specifically to me, come along and ask me you can ask me a question and I'll be able to answer it for you on the show or through Twitter or whatever. You can you can also get hold of the other guys, Ray and Leon, through the Ace Comicals channels if you want to ask any questions specifically to them. If you come to me through the Ace Comicals email, they will be able to answer that for you. That's fine. Rahul, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Monkeh, so that's Moonkeh. And listeners, just so you know, you can also probably find Greg trapped under a pile of comics in his attic. How about you, Leon? Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Leon Everett. But I'll be busy trying to rescue Greg from the cave-in he's just had.
I've spread the word on the internet. You can deal with the rest.
I'm going book by book, and it's going to take a long time.
You're going to read them before you can take them off him.
Read them as you lift them. Oh. So yeah, that has been Ace Comicals, and thanks for listening, Ace Comicals. Over and out.